When I last drove the McLaren 720S, I called it perfect because I didn't think that a supercar could possibly get any better. Well, it's a good thing that I don't work at McLaren because the folks over in England were not satisfied with mere perfection. They wanted to take it a step even further. How could they possibly improve on the McLaren 720S, you say? Well, the 750S is more powerful and it gets a lot of improvements from the track special 675 LT. Can that make the new 750S even better than a car that I already called perfect? Let's find out. Now, you can't start a video about a supercar without talking about the styling. And at first glance, you might be wondering, wait a minute, Jared, are you sure you're not just driving a updated version of the 720S? Well, the 750S is an entirely all new car, but it is heavily based on the 720S, which is why those two cars do look pretty similar. If you start looking at some of the finer details, you'll notice that this actually is a very different car, at least up here in the front. We've got kind of this split eye design. It just looks so mean. There is a lot of body color here on the front fascia. If I'm being honest, it's not my favorite when finished in this Indy orange, a really bright color. I think that the darker colors actually look a lot better when you have this much body painted frontal area. Now, there is a way that you can actually change that. This car has like an $1,800 option where the inner pieces of the eyeballs here where the headlight trim is actually painted in body color, as you can see here. You can actually get that in black or in carbon fiber, and I think that does quite a lot to kind of break up the front and give it a more cohesive look, in my opinion, rather than having all a bright color, especially this Indy orange. I'm absolutely loving these wheels. I think they do kind of harken back to the MP4 12C wheels, at least to me. They call this the 10-spoke super lightweight alloy wheel. We have some blue McLaren brakes as part of the 60th anniversary paint package. We've got our 750S logo right here with our very cool looking mirrors here. You'll notice that the 750S that we are driving is the Spider model. You can get this as a fixed roof coupe or as a Spider, and honestly, I think you're better off getting the Spider. It really loses none of the styling compared to the coupe. It really just pretty much looks the same when the roof is up. You get these gorgeous looking flying buttresses that are actually like a glass, so you can actually kind of see through them. Gives you amazing visibility when you're in that car. You can roll down this rear window as well separately. You can leave the roof, but just roll down this window so you can get a good heaping helping of that sport exhaust, which we'll hear a little bit later. You can also get an electrochromic glass roof on the Spider, so you can kind of have it be coated, or you can have it be clear. We'll test that out as we get on the inside. And then one of the things you can see here at the back that they've changed from the 720S, you now get this P1 style center exhaust. This is about as close as you can get to a straight pipe from the factory. It sounds absolutely glorious, as we'll hear when we get it out on the road. You also have this absolutely massive spoiler that we have painted in body color, but you can get it in black, carbon fiber, whatever you want. This spoiler is active, so it does pop up. It also functions as an air brake, which is just so super duper cool. And honestly, I think orange is such a cool color for McLarens. I just do think that this particular McLaren looks better in a deeper color. I'd probably order mine in a deep purple. Now, every adult has a child inside them that is absolutely going to love the fact that this car has doors that go up. That's right. The 750S, unlike some other cars in this price point, does have the billionaire doors. They make a statement pretty much everywhere you go, but they do make it a little bit more difficult to get in and out of this vehicle. Luckily, we do have the comfort seats. You can get like a carbon fiber bucket racing seat. I think that is completely unnecessary in a car like this. Just go ahead and get these comfort seats. They're still very small. They don't have like a lot of thickness to them, so they're not very heavy, but they do still look really good, and they are really comfortable and adjustable. Loving the orange seat belts as well with the orange stitching, but you can have these done up in Alcantara leather, however you really want them. These ones are the Alcantara, which I think looks really great. As before, getting in the 750S, I mentioned that it is a little bit more difficult due to the doors, but the sill to get in and out really isn't that thick for a mid-engine supercar, so it's really not all that bad. The handle is not too far of a reach away to be able to close it, and you really don't have to slam it because this car does have soft close. It'll roll up the window as well. You really have to put your foot hard on the brake. That is a weird McLaren quirk where the brake pedal is actually really firm and really heavy. The 750S does not change that, and you'll fire this car up to life. Now, one of the biggest complaints about the 720S was the technology and the livability. This is one of the areas where McLaren really wanted to improve this car the most. They wanted to be able to make this a better driver's car. Have they done that? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. We've got this new infotainment system. I think it definitely feels a lot snappier than the outgoing model. Everything doesn't really take much of a delay to activate. We do have Apple CarPlay. We have Android Auto as well, or I'm not sure about Android, but we definitely have Apple CarPlay. I have tested that. When I go ahead and put it in reverse using the drive mode selector down here, we have a 360 camera. It's certainly not the best 360 camera I've ever used, but when you have a car that's this expensive and this low, you want to at least be able to see the curbs and all of the goodies like that. So I am happy that McLaren at least incorporated that into the car. No park on this car. You do have to rely on the parking brake, which has always been kind of a weird thing with McLarens. We now have this new gauge cluster. It doesn't do the cool thing where it folds anymore, which is kind of a disappointment because I thought that was so cool and trick in the 720S, but it does now move with the steering column. So you have your adjustment down here. So the whole gauge binnacle moves with the steering wheel, which is quite nice. We still have this gorgeous looking steering wheel with this metal here on the bottom. No controls, so you're not raising the volume and changing your radio stations and stuff like that on this steering wheel. But we do have these nice drive mode selectors up here, so you can literally reach them with your fingers without even taking your hands off of the wheel. We've got a powertrain toggle right here, comfort, sport, track, and then you can put the transmission in its manual mode up here. And then here we have the handling, which is going to change your suspension and traction control, stuff like that. Comfort, sport, and track as well for that. Pretty easy. 2 different modes, 3 different settings for each of them, so it's not super hard to keep that kind of stuff straight. The gauge cluster is going to change, as you can see, when you switch the handling mode, not the powertrain mode. Or actually, it'll do with either, which is kind of nice. I do like that. One thing I do have to mention, we do have a nose lift on this car. It is an optional extra, but McLaren is really proud of the fact that this now takes just 4 seconds to lift the car up into its lifted position. It took like double that amount of time in the 720S, so that is a huge livability improvement when combined with the 360 camera, which, if I didn't forget to mention, the 360 camera lives here. You do get a backup camera as well in here. I like kind of how you can kind of look at this, look at that, and know exactly where the car is going to be. We do have some buttons here. We have our arrow, that's to control the air brake back there. We do also have our launch control button, which I'm sure we are going to try out on the road. And then this button is kind of interesting. So this is called the McLaren Control Launcher. So I mentioned all of these different settings here that you can kind of configure. Once you've found the one that you want to keep, you can save it to this McLaren Control Launcher and then bring it up very quickly. Now, that might not sound like the most amazing technology. You know, BMW and other companies have been doing that for a really long time, but it is really nice. One button. I like to set everything to comfort, and then you know, maybe have the powertrain in its sport or track modes, not necessarily having the stiff suspension. So it's nice that you can go ahead and do that. What else do we have that's new? We've still got Bowers and Wilkins audio as an optional extra. Sounds really good. I haven't had a huge amount of time to listen to it because I've been busy listening to that 4-liter twin turbo V8 engine. And as I mentioned, on the exterior, we do have this electrochromic roof here on the convertible. You just push one button and you can see the huge difference there. It's not that sunny right this second, but you can see this is what it looks like in the clear mode. And then when it tints, it gets really dark. And then this roof works extremely fast. You can go ahead and just put this window down, which is such a nice feature, or you can go ahead and actually fold it this way, and the whole roof goes down in like 11 seconds. You do have to hold it like most convertible roofs, but it stows away really neatly. You can raise this up again if you want to have kind of less wind noise intruding into the driving experience. But I would say the improvements here are definitely welcomed over the 720S. This car is maybe a little bit more livable than that car, which is good. The more you can want to drive your supercar, the better. Now, before we do the proper thing and take the 750S out on the road, if you are curious how much storage is in a car like this, the answer is not that much. You get a trunk up here in the front. You can see a backpack fits very easily. You could probably get your carry-on suitcase plus a backpack, no problem at all, but you do have to travel a little bit lighter when you're in this class of vehicle. All right, now it's time to find out how the follow-up to the greatest supercar I think I've ever driven feels. How could this possibly be any better? And we're of course gonna start off by putting it in launch mode. So launch mode, foot fully on the brake, waiting full throttle, and building boost. Ready? Here we go. Ooh, there it goes. Little slip off the line. Oh, oh. Okay. We slipped a little bit off the line. That was a 3.09 second 0 to 60 time. I know we can do better than that because McLaren says this car will do 0 to 60 in about 2.7 seconds. It'll do 124 miles per hour in just 7.3 seconds with a 206 mile an hour top speed. So I know there's a better time in this car at some point. So we will try again. What's allowing that level of performance is McLaren's kind of tried and true at this point 4-liter twin turbocharged flat plane crank V8 engine. This is the same engine we've been seeing from McLaren for quite a long time now, actually. It's the same motor that you would get in the 720S, but it now makes more power. 740 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque, still going out through what I believe, if it's not the best dual clutch transmission out there, it's pretty darn close. The shifts are faster than I could even blink an eye. Telepathically brilliant. The way that this car changes gears is phenomenal. And it just knows exactly what gear I want to be in at all times when I leave it in manual mode, but the paddle shifters are so clicky. Oh my God. It's almost like before I'm even done pulling the paddle. And because I'm in the track mode, it lets me get a little bit of slip there. I'm learning the limitations of the car with the traction control in its most violent setting. It can really let you get a good amount of wheel slip. But there is so much grip from this car. Just like you'd expect from a McLaren. The steering, oh my gosh, it's just as good as I remember from the last time I drove the 720S. It's so sharp. This is one of the last electro-hydraulic steerings. This is not a full electric rack. It does have hydraulic assist, and it's just incredible. I'm going to take everything down one notch, handling in sport, powertrain in sport, because if I'm being honest, the track mode is a little bit ridiculous for the type of roads that I have around me. But I do have some turns here in Florida. Yes, they do exist. And the McLaren just makes just the shortest work of them. It's unbelievably fast. Oh, even when you're driving at around 5 or 6 tenths, you're just flying. And like I said, the steering combined with the amazing chassis that this car has, the proactive chassis control that McLaren has just been perfecting. This is the 3rd generation of it. We've got independent kind of suspension at all 4 corners. They've revised the geometry. They've made it softer at the front, stiffer at the rear. That's all to like improve the comfort of what was already a pretty reasonably comfortable supercar, the 720S. I think this is even more comfortable out on the road. But then they've given it the gear ratios from the 765 LT, which was the sharper, more track-focused version of the 720S, which was a car I never drove, but I heard it was absolutely incredible, sharper than the 720S, but it didn't have the same comfort and livability. Now you get the comfort and livability and the power. All right, we're going to try doing that launch control again. We're going to put it back into launch mode. We're waiting full throttle. Boost building. Boost ready. Let's go. Come on. Look up. Oh, that was better. 2.98 seconds. This car definitely has sub 3s in it. No problem. That was 2.98 seconds. Oh, thank those shorter gears, because the one problem with the 720S was, yes, it was incredible shifting this ridiculously fast dual clutch transmission, but you didn't get to do it that often because the gear ratios were so long and the car had so much power and such long legs that you didn't really get to have all that much fun shifting it only 2 times before you were doing ridiculous speeds. In this, I can play around with the gearbox more. And because there's so much torque, I don't have to rev it all the way out to the red line to feel like I'm going fast. So I get to just play around with the paddles more. Oh my God, even in sport mode, they just deliver such a nice kick. And then the best thing about this car is after you've just had so much fun driving it ridiculously, you can tick both of these little steering wheel console controls here that are only a finger length away back into their comfort setting. And you definitely still hear the engine. It's in ever presence here. It's a V8 twin turbo. It's gonna make some noise, but it's pretty quiet now. And the dual clutch transmission fades into the background. It doesn't try to, bang my seat against the headrest. It just shifts super smoothly, like you would want an automatic transmission to do, which is really all you can ask for in a supercar like this to make it livable so that you want to drive it more. Yes, it's all great that it can lap a racetrack really fast, but if it's too uncomfortable that you never want to drive it, what's the point in that? And of course, let's not forget, we are driving a convertible here. The top goes down in 11 seconds at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour. And now I get to enjoy everything about this car with the open sky. Oh, there go my scripts. Flew right out of the car. Just too powerful for a piece of paper. I don't need those anyway. Yeah, I'm just gonna shut up now and just enjoy the car. I knew McLaren could build a perfect car, and I thought they did with the 720S, but somehow they've managed to make it even better with the 750S. If you have more money than God and you're looking for what is arguably the perfect supercar experience, I think McLaren might have done it again. Now, sadly, that is going to wrap up my time with the 2025 McLaren 750S. And I've got to end it with the worst possible news. This thing is super expensive. The coupe starts at a whopping $324,000. The Spider is even more expensive, $343,700. I think the price difference there is absolutely menial. If you can already afford a car like this, just go for the Spider. You lose basically nothing, maybe a tenth of a second off the 124 mile an hour time, but you get all of the wind in your hair and the noise being closer to that epic exhaust. I think it's absolutely worth the price for the Spider. Now, how does it compare to other supercars on the market? Well, for around the same price, you're maybe getting a Ferrari 296 GTB, but you're probably spending a lot more after options on that car, if Ferrari will even sell you a car at all. The Lamborghini Revuelto is way more expensive than this. With options, those are like $700,000. You can maybe wait for the Lamborghini Temerario, which will also have a twin-turbo V8. It will also be all-wheel drive. So I don't know if that's going to be quite as sharp as this car. It may be a little bit more comfortable. It does have a bigger interior than the McLaren, but we really just have to wait and see how the Temerario drives. As it stands, I'm going to go ahead and say, just like with the McLaren 720S, the McLaren 750S is about as close as you could get to a perfect driving experience. You could drive this every day if you really wanted to and can live with the obviously limited practicality of a supercar. It sounds great. It stops everybody wherever you go, and unless you are just so rich that you need something even further beyond this, like the upcoming McLaren W1, which will make this seem slow by comparison, which is absolutely crazy to me, you really can't hope to do much better than the 750S. I absolutely love it. McLaren, bravo once again. I really hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2025 McLaren 750S. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.